Hi guys, this is Debbie with Debbie J's Crafting Corner, and today I'm going to be using the small die of the month, which is this lovely little package die and all the goodies that go along with it to make a couple of mini slimline cards. I discovered that this little border is perfect. It's right under 6 inches. Right under 6 inches, so it's the perfect size to be able to do a mini slimline. And I'm also going to be using some paper out of the Picket Fences paper pack, which is part of the card kit of the month for this month, because I never use up all of this, so I'm going to use it up on as many cards as possible this month. So I'm going to start off with just cutting some of the paper down, and then I'm going to start die cutting my little pieces. I'm also going to be using some heavyweight cardstock for my card base, and I am scoring it right at 3 inches. That way I can cut it at 7 more easily with my little my smaller paper trimmer. So now it's the right height for a regular slimline, and then I can trim it down a little bit so it'll act as a mini slimline. So that will be perfect. So I've decided I want to do one of those cool shaped borders for the front, so I'm going to start off with cutting my pattern paper with this. So I've got that one positioned. It says that it is right at 6 inches, so I'm going to go ahead and line this up right at the edge at that and try to get it as straight as I can. And I don't want to waste any of that paper either. So I'm going to go ahead and run that through my Gemini Junior. So I've got that nice border on there, and I can just cut off the edges when I'm done with it. So what I'm going to do with this is I'm going to position my die down here at the bottom, and then position my cardstock right over the top, same way that I did the other. I'm going to try to get it right down here at the edge so that hopefully it'll stay straight. Now if you plan better than what I did, you won't have problems like what I'm doing. Let's go ahead and run that through, and then let's see if I did it right. Looks good. Looks like it's going to work. Also, I wasn't too sure if it was going to mangle the side or not, but this turned out to be the exact right height of a card base to be able to do this. So for this point, I'm just going to trim off right where the cardstock was cut with the die, and I figure I can go back and fix it later, but I'm going to do the same thing with this pattern paper, and I'm going to trim it down a little bit as well. But what it's going to look like, it's going to go right over the top there. That is exactly what I was wanting. Perfect! Okay, so next I'm going to go ahead and trim my card base down, and then I'm going to trim my pattern paper down to make sure everything is going to fit perfect. Then I can go on to cutting out those pretty packages. Okay, so what I think I need to do at this point is grab some temporary adhesive. Okay, this one is my removable. The reason being is I want to be able to make sure that I get the lines straight. I mean, I know that this edge is going to match, and that's fine. But I want to also make sure that I get everything else lined up just right too, and get it so it trims. I keep on having issues with it going right. There we go, it goes right there. Okay. But now what I can do is I can trim this edge, and that means that it's going to basically, if I use this one as a guide, the rest of it will be square, and I'll be able to pull it just a little bit from the borders like what I want to do, and I'll be fine. So now that that one is good, I can trim the rest of my borders, my edges from that. So if I can trim it down to about, I'm going to trim it on both sides, I think. So a little bit on one side, and then turn it over, and then trim it down so it's going to be 5 1/4 on that side. And that should give me a nice pink border on 3 sides. And I think that'll be perfect. So next what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut out the main piece and its borders with some gold mirror cardstock. Go ahead and position all of my dies onto my Sizzix sticky grid. And then I can position my gold mirror cardstock right over that. Okay, so I'm going to put it there, and then I'm going to go ahead and run this through my Gemini Junior. That looks pretty. So I went ahead and cut out a bunch of white, this is heavyweight cardstock in white, of that same package image. I went ahead and cut out a bunch of those, and I'm going to start putting this card together. To do that, I think I'm going to use my art glitter glue, mostly because I want to make sure I get it real well along that edge there. And using a dot liner is probably not going to get enough adhesive close enough to the edge for it to stay together. Be too easy to peel it apart, and I don't really want to do that. So I'm going to go ahead first and do this background piece. Also, it gives me a chance to move it around a little bit if I don't get the positioning exactly straight on the first go. There we go. And I'm also going to layer up a couple of the white heavyweight cardstock in that image behind my gold so that it gives it a little bit of dimension. So this is just some spray adhesive that I picked up at the Dollar Tree. It's Beacon, and I've heard that Beacon is supposed to be pretty decent, so I'm going to go ahead and try that out. I've done it on a couple of projects, and it seems to be working pretty good, and I've also got just an old box that I'm using as a glue box. And I want to make sure I line everything up just right. It doesn't feel like there's any adhesive on there, so I need to spray some more on there. I think an aerosol would probably work better, but use what you got, guys. And for this gold, I think I am going to have to use my art glitter glue for that because it is not wanting to stick at all. Part of that might be that when die cutting it, it does create, because this is kind of a metallic paper, it does create little grooves on the back side, and I don't think that spray was reaching enough, and I didn't want to take the chance of overspraying onto the gold, or I would have done it first, and that may have been a better choice for adhesive as well. Get that all lined up. That looks lovely. Now I'm going to put some adhesive on the back so that I can adhere it down to my card. Again, just using some of that art glitter glue. And I'm going to just line it up with that border at the bottom. And I think I'm going to put my phone on it for a minute so that it has a chance to adhere. Well, I had planned on using the It's Your Day dies that come with that package set on the card, but it's a little hard to read. Probably because I've got too busy of a background and there's not really that much additional space, and it's too much for this card. So instead, I'm using a stamp from the Shopping Bag Sentiments stamp because it happens to be on my desk, because I just happened to get it within the last couple of days, and some Gina K Amalgam ink. This is the Obsidian Black. And the stamp set just happened to have a happy birthday sentiment, so I'm going to go ahead and stamp that down on the scrap from my card base. That looks pretty good, and then I'll cut that out and I'll use that as my sentiment. And then there we go. That card is done. Now I'm going to go ahead and do a second card using the rest of that 6x6 piece of paper. And for this one, I went ahead and cut out a bunch of those little those packages. And I cut out a piece of transparency using the background. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and adhere that to the back of one, and then I can create a shaker out of the rest of these. Because this is plastic and I want it to have time to dry, I'm going to use my art glitter glue for this top portion. Making sure to get all of the edges. And this is basically going to be the decorative piece on the top. I decided not to go with the gold a second time, although I love that gold. Just feel that it's a little bit busy, and this card I want the shaker bits to be seen more, whereas if I had used that gold as the top layer, it would have been detracting from the shaker bits. Okay, so I've got that positioned pretty well, and I'm going to set that off to the side to dry underneath my phone again. And now to adhere all of these to each other, I'm going to get out my splat box, my glue box again. And go again with that adhesive spray on the back. And this is basically going to create, I'm going to have like about six or seven layers thick, I believe. Okay, and then I'm going to let this set to the side to dry. Okay, so now I'm going to adhere this piece down. This is that thick almost like chipboard. It's really thick now that I've got like 7 layers. And I'm going to go ahead and adhere it down using my art glitter glue and then give that some time to dry. I know, too much dry time for this, guys. Sorry. But I'm going to go ahead and do that because what it's going to create is a bunch of little wells for some shaker bits to go into. And because of that, I went ahead and grabbed out my seed bead collection. I don't use it very often. Wasn't really all of that expensive. Got it at Michael's probably 2-3 years ago and haven't used much of it up, but I think those little beads are probably the right size to go into most of these little wells that I'm creating here. So if you've got some seed beads, I mean, sequins are kind of my preferred method. I do like using sequins in shakers, but these little areas are too small, and I probably could have gotten around that by cutting out the inside of these packages, and that would have taken a bit of fussy cutting, and it probably is a good look, and I may do that again at another time, but for today this is the look I'm going for. And I'm going to go ahead and adhere this down onto my background and let it dry so that those bits don't get stuck in the glue. And then once I'm sure that this has adhered well enough, then I can start adding the rest. So let me go ahead and center that somewhat on my 6x6 panel. Because once this is all done, I'm going to put the beads in and then top it off with this, and then everything's going to be contained inside each of those little bitty wells. Okay, this is probably going to be the most difficult part. Each of these little containers, because I haven't used them, are really full, and every time I open them, I make a mess. So I'm going to attempt to not make that big of a mess. I've also pulled out several different ones. I'm not going to use all of these, believe me. But I do want to put some gold because we have the little touches of gold there. So I want some kind of I think I do have some gold ones in here. I want some white to go in, and I've got some white over here and some off-white here. And I'm thinking some reds. I don't have any pink, but I think that red would be nice in there. And so let's go ahead and try not to spill it all over the place. So this, I think it's like a bead scoop, but I'm not sure. I got it in like a D-stash from someone a long time ago, and it looks like these won't hold a lot, but that is okay. Just want to put a little bit of different colors in different spots and try not to overfill. Okay, I am going to say that that is going to be good because mostly these are a little overfull. I'm also dragging my finger across the top to make sure that none of them are poking up the top, because if they're not actually flushed down in there, then my cover isn't going to fit. Okay, so that feels pretty good. I'm going to use some art glitter glue on this as well. And the easiest way to do this, because now this side is plastic, the easiest way is going to be to go onto the paper so it can start absorbing. And this time I do need to go around most of these areas so that they don't, so that none of the beads start to fall out. Okay, I think I got pretty much all of the places done. And I'm thinking I probably am also gluing some of the beads in place without really meaning to. Okay, let me put my phone back on top of that and give that a chance to dry. Okay, so that is looking cool. It does have the little shake, so that is good. I'm not positive whether or not putting the words on are not going to work on this one either. It is just, these are too intricate and that is still too busy, so I'm going to do the same thing that I did on the previous card and stamp out a sentiment. I'll use that same happy birthday sentiment from that other stamp set and fussy cut that out. And this time, before fussy cutting it out, I'm going to let that sit for a minute so it has a chance to dry well enough. While I'm waiting for that though, I'm going to use these little bits here. Now I cut out a bunch of the little bows that come in this die set too, so I think it's time to start adding those to my card. I thought about using some of the gold bits to go in the wells, but again, those wells are just a little bit too small, but that doesn't mean I can't save them to use for later. Okay, I think that turned out just lovely. It has a little bit of shake, not too much, not too little, and all that nice gold foil cardstock, the mirror cardstock, and happy birthday. I think they both turned out just so cute. Oh my goodness. So if you'd like to see some more videos where I'm making some more cards using Spellbinders products, be sure to check out this playlist. You guys have a wonderful day. And remember, if I can make it, you can too. Have a great day.